As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be.
Oh man, it's 8 o'clock.
And so that'll make it a.
I don't need the spotlight. I shine just fine.
Hi, I'm Karma, and yes, I am a bitch.
Brav Bros. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of the Summer House reunion. I'm hoping that you're joining us from the last episode, and if you're listening to this without listening to the first episode, you're weird. But I am Steele Russell, joined as always by the one and only Summer Goots. Summer Goots, what's up, dude?
Summer Goots, yeah. Why? Yeah, that would be really weird if you were just jumping in for the second episode. Although, I guess if you're expecting us to talk about West and Ciara, and that's all you care about, that's what we'll be talking about in this episode. So that would make sense. But go back and listen to episode 1. What are you doing here?
Yeah, you weirdo. But I agree. If you are trying to sink your teeth into the West and Ciara drama, that is going to be the focal point of this episode. That and the Lindsay and Paige drama that we didn't really know was a thing until this episode aired. But as we pointed out last episode, as far as seasons go, as far as reunions go on top of the season, this has been a masterclass in reality TV. And I really, really hope that it is a sign of better things to come throughout Bravo. We've gotten some great shows from the non-housewives community. I know we talk about this probably too much, but I hope that our listeners understand it's not because we don't like the housewives. It's because we love the housewives and we want them to get back to their glory days when they were the biggest shows on Bravo. That's why we got into this show. That's why people watch. So that's my just little rant. I'm hoping that I don't have high hopes, honestly, because fucking Jermaine, aka Jeremiah, did you see he got hired for the Valley?
Yeah, I saw that. That's the stupidest thing ever. And I love that everybody knows now that Jermaine going to the Valley is a bad move. There's a whole Reddit thread talking about how dumb it is, how bad VPR was at the end. He's fully to blame because he was the main producer from there. Look, there's one thing to understand. Although I guess maybe if Vanderpump's not coming back, then they found a new spot for him. But I like to look at it this way. If you're good at your job, you don't get fired from your job and move to a different place. You stay right where you are. That means you're doing a great job and you're going to stay there. Him going to the Valley makes no sense. This is one of the better shows. It's new. It's promising. We're all talking about it. Don't take some loser from a fucking failing franchise and put him on a new show. Makes no sense.
No, it drives me crazy. And I feel like Bravo does this, and I don't understand why. I feel like they try to force things that don't need to be forced. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Tell Jermaine to kick rocks. Get the fuck out of here. You got tenure. You got pension. You've been around for a while. Go away. Go to TLC and produce some like makeover show. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I do wonder if the producer that was with the Valley maybe got demoted or moved somewhere else because we didn't get any Dodie for the last couple of episodes. So that's why they decided to make the change. They're holding them accountable. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but
no, don't. Just have more Dodie. Just tell that producer, hey, more Dodie. But other than that, great job. Like, it was a great season. Why Jermaine it up and fuck it up? Like, this guy's a loser.
Yeah,
you're a loser. I've seen you eat alone. You're a loser.
All right, what do you say we get back into the Summer House ass?
Yeah. I don't want to get too far off track here, but let's jump back in. And where we left things was we were about to get into the Paige and Lindsay stuff. And again, I didn't know that this was an issue. We left the summer. They were on good terms. For the first time, I think ever, we saw Lindsay really connect with the women of the house. And that was refreshing. Whether you're on Carl's side or Lindsay's side, whatever, take that bullshit out of it. To see everyone in the house just get along was a much needed breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Like, we did not see this coming at all. There was no word of this. Now, obviously, look, for even the sleuthiest sleuths out there, you're not going to see this coming because you go to Paige or you go to Lindsay's page, whatever you're going to do, you're not going to see either person on the other person's page. It's just not going to happen because they're not really that close. We did see them get a little page. I know. Profile, account, whatever. So you go to someone else's.
Oh, you physically
profile.
mean their page? I thought you meant like on the same page. Their Instagram.
No, that's another.
Profile.
That would be another level of that. No, if you were If you were to go
Turn
to
the
one of their
page.
profiles, you turn the page, you're not going to see the other person there because they're not really that close. And look, this is leaps and bounds ahead of where they were at the end of last year or even years prior because they just did not see eye to eye. They're just very, very, very different people, and that's understandable. But I didn't expect this. And it
No.
seems like Paige was holding on to this one for a long time because it happened around BravoCon, which was what, November? And this was filming in the beginning of May. So she was holding on to this for a long time to try to catch Lindsay off.
Well, that's what she does. Like, she saves most of her ammo for the reunion. Some people in the comments, a lot of people have a problem with that, where they're like, oh,
Mhm.
she stays in bed all summer, which she didn't this summer. Like, she was involved this summer. I'll give her credit for that. And as far as holding on to your ammo across the board, I never have an issue with that because it
Nope.
makes for a much more entertaining reunion. What I will say is the details to me are both hazy and confusing because Andy just asks, like, you guys seem like you're in a better place. And she's like, yeah, we actually connected over the summer, but I was in Vegas and I heard about Lindsay and her friend trying to sabotage a photo shoot. We find out that that information came from Carl, who overheard a phone conversation. So it's already very layered, right? These are two that broke off an engagement. You're getting the news from the ex fiance. Does that mean it's not true? No, it doesn't. But let's go through how one would sabotage a photo shoot. And did the photo shoot occur?
Uh, I have no fucking idea because
I
it seems
imagine
like it
it
was.
did because she didn't say
I
that it got
imagine the
canceled.
photo shoot still happened. Yeah, she would have said we would have moved to a different place or something else would have happened. I don't know. I got very caught up with Carl dry snitching on Lindsay and why that came about and like why you feel the need to do that because that happened. It happened before BravoCon. You're gonna sit here now and you're gonna tell Kyle or you're gonna tell Amanda, I guess, who's gonna tell Paige what's going on here and this information that no one else was privy to. You're gonna bring this up now. Like it's just a very interesting move. And again, I talked about this in the first episode. Carl's main move right now is to stay in that middle road, talking about how he did both of them a favor because they shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. And look, I do appreciate that he's at least come to terms with that. And that's good. That's exactly how the rest of us feel. But if that's truly how you feel and how you're going to operate, you wouldn't be telling Amanda something that Lindsay was doing with one of her friends to go after Paige. Like that makes no sense to me. So him sitting there, and I don't think he got enough shit because everything should have just turned to Carl and been like,
Let's
okay,
shift it to Danielle very quickly.
yeah, it shifted to Danielle very quickly. And look, Paige and Ciara kind of manned that one, but it should have gone back to Carl and saying, what did you hear, Carl? What happens? Tell us everything in great detail and then tell us where it went. Did it go to Amanda, who then went to Paige? Did you go to Paige directly? If he went to Paige directly, that tells me he's seeing Paige get closer to Lindsay and saying, yeah, maybe you shouldn't get close to Lindsay because I know some dirt. And then that kind of derails the whole thing because you want Paige on your side at the end of the day if you're on this cast.
Yeah, I think in my brain, what probably happened was, Kyle, I've been doing this since episode 1. Carl was silent for the entire offseason. We didn't hear anything from him. We only heard from Lindsay's camp as far as what was going on, who was the villain in this whole thing, all that.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine what happened was throughout the offseason, more and more speculation was coming out about Carl. I would assume that he got frustrated. And at BravoCon, he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to drop a little note in either Amanda's ear or Paige's ear. And this is my defense is you
Yeah.
think that Lindsay's the woman scorned and this and that. Well, here's her talking shit on you. That makes sense to me. I'm not saying that's the correct move by any means.
Yeah.
That's just, I would imagine it came about some way like that.
I could see
makes
that
sense.
happening. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
But regardless, like, Paige was really torn up about it. She said that she couldn't get out of bed. She was really upset. Again, I don't understand how it got sabotaged or how she could sabotage it. I guess Lindsay's friend owns the venue where the photo shoot was occurring. Could I see Lindsay on the phone with her talking shit? Definitely. I could definitely see that phone call happening. As far as sabotaging it, that's where I'm like, all right. And to your point, okay, Carl, what was said? How were they planning on sabotaging? I need details to understand
Yeah.
how one goes about that because it didn't make sense.
No, that doesn't make any sense at all. And I honestly, the way that I imagine it would have played out is Lindsay was just talking to her friend about someone who she's not friends with. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that her and look, nobody knew what they went through last summer, that they got a little closer, that they kind of squashed a couple of things here and there. But at the end of the day, I could see two friends talking on the phone saying, "Oh, you'll never guess who just booked a thing at my place. Paige. Oh, wow, what the fuck is she doing there? Oh, that's yeah, we'll see." And like you kind of just go back and forth like that, and maybe you're talking shit on Paige a little bit with your friends. I could see all of that happening, but getting to the point of sabotage, how is the question? What are you going to do? Cut the fucking electricity in the middle of it and just run them through it? Are you going to charge them a lot more? You're going to put a bunch of taxes on there? Like, what are you supposed to do to sabotage something like that? I don't get it. I thought it was really dumb that, again, we didn't go back to Carl because Lindsay was completely caught off guard. So she didn't know what the hell was going on. And she was just playing the, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's where I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Anytime
to say
people
that you
play
don't
that,
remember. Yeah. You don't remember the entire conversation. Like, all right, Lindsay, like, just say, my friend told me that you were having a photo shoot there, and I may have said some unkind things because it was during the summer. So it's not like, it could have been before they reconciled. Who the hell knows?
I don't know, but I was more so not on her team there, but more so like, I don't really get this until she went with I don't remember. I was like, oh, there's something there.
There's something.
I don't know if it was a
definitely there.
sabotage, but there's definitely more there if you quote unquote don't remember it. That
She was
doesn't make
talking
sense to me.
shit. Yeah. And she just didn't want
That's
to,
what I
like,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, she was talking shit with her friend. I don't think it was sabotage, but
Sabotage is a big word. That's a
big
huge
word.
word. Yeah.
And also, like, but to counter it with I don't remember, I'm like, ew, that's a bad defense. Don't go with that. Like, just say, yeah, I talk shit. My bad. But whatever. Immediately following that, clearly Paige isn't over what had happened the year prior. And that is she went after Lindsay over the leaked story about Craig getting kicked out of Kyle and Amanda's wedding. Now, we find out later that Danielle was the one behind that. When did we find that out officially?
That was early this season. Lindsay and Paige.
Right? Oh, Lindsay and Paige
yeah.
in the kitchen. That's right. Yeah. And she told her like that was Dan, like flat out threw her under the bus, like without any hesitation. And that I thought was fucked up as well. Where it's like,
oh no,
right,
that was last season we found that out.
Was
Lindsay
that,
and Danielle
in the
were
kitchen No, that was the kitchen this summer. No. It was definitely the kitchen this summer when she was talking to Paige, and she just goes, oh, by the way, that was Danielle that leaked that story. Which, if you're reconnecting with Danielle and you have come to terms in that conversation they had previous or prior to them filming, which again, I'm frustrated that they had this convo. We didn't know about it because it's pertinent now. In that conversation, they agreed, if you talk shit about me, I won't get mad, but please tell me so I don't get blindsided when I'm watching the season.
Yeah.
The first chance she gets, she throws Danielle under the bus
yeah.
and doesn't tell her, and then tries to backpedal now and be like, oh, I didn't want to like upset you. I wanted to clear my name. There's a way to clear your name without throwing your other friend under the bus. You can say things got a little messy. Look, like she was the one that said it. I don't want to like that. I didn't love that she was so quick to just be like, two wheels over Danielle right there. But Danielle's response to all of this was terrible because she starts to go on like the defensive and goes after Paige and says, you're coming after my business and your confessionals are damaging and they're not funny. And Paige's like, well, actually they're hilarious and they are funny. And I guess she's referring to, she's trying to launch the app. You have Paige talking shit about her career in the confessionals. Could you take that for being shady and mean? Yeah. I don't know if she's coming after your business or if it's damaging to your business, but the overall sentiment of the whole thing is Danielle, she claims that Paige was being shady the whole summer. From what I saw, Paige got shady when their relationship started to fall apart a little bit. I didn't think that Paige was trying to crucify her business early on. I don't even think she was doing that in the confessionals. I think she was just talking shit like she always does in the confessionals.
No. She was talking shit when Danielle brought it up, calling herself the CEO and founder of a company during the whole Gabby situation.
Right.
That's
And
the
she
only
also
time
was talking shit about Craig and their relationship where like Craig pretty much bends the knee to you at all points. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on there. And I do think that when it comes to Danielle and Paige, like, yeah, if the Paige, or I'm sorry, if Danielle didn't leak that story last year, I don't think Paige pays Danielle any mind. I don't think she
No.
cares about what Danielle's doing. And that's the right approach because who really gives a shit what's going on? But when it comes down to it, you did leak that story. Paige is going to sit there, probably talk to other people about it, figure out if it actually happened, found out that it definitely happened. And yeah, of course, if you're going to make some shady remarks in your confessionals or you're going to make some shady remarks elsewhere, Paige is going to retaliate. So I don't understand Danielle's defense to any of this because she first off, she starts it off with, I didn't tell them anything that wasn't true. Okay. It wasn't a fucking event that there were cameras at. You don't need to then bring the cameras in or go to TMZ and tell them
She went to
about what
Dumois.
happened.
She dropped a
Yeah.
blind item.
Yeah, and like it's just so fucking dumb. Like I think it was so funny to watch her get caught off guard with the whole thing because she starts off, she's like, "Oh, now I'm sabotaging your event." Like, no, Danielle, you know what you did. Did you think that you were going to get out of this reunion without talking about it?
Well, she plays the victim card quickly. And then to the friendship of Lindsay and Danielle, why would either of you want to be friends with the other one? On one hand, Lindsay threw you under the bus the first chance she had. On the flip side, we go to the cut from last year at the reunion. As they're blaming Lindsay, cut to Danielle's face. She is silent. Like,
Yep.
if that's your friend over there, you would say, hey, that was me, not her. But no, and I know that they were rocky last year, but you stayed completely, you let her take the fall for it entirely and let it simmer for an entire year before finally copping to it. And you didn't even cop to it. Lindsay did.
Mm-hmm.
So why the fuck are you two friends anyway when you're not going to like take up for her when everyone's blaming her? And then when the first chance she gets, she throws you under the bus and breaks your deal where you guys said, if we talk shit, let's at least tell each other about it. Like that, those two are, again, another toxic friendship in this house. But Danielle's biggest defense is, yeah, I leaked it. I heard it. And back then I thought it was juicy as fuck. It's like, dude, do less
That's
in the
like
off season.
it's the thirstiest comment of all time. And we already knew that she was a little thirsty for the attention for anything. But to say something like that after getting caught red-handed, that's the opposite. That's not what we're talking about when we say we want people to show their true emotions and actually tell us how they feel about things. That is one of those things that you just need to take it and move on. You did something
Yes.
fucked up. Just acknowledge the fact that you shouldn't have done that. There was no need to bring any of the things that were off camera back into light, especially with Craig, who's on a different show. You don't do anything like that because it doesn't get you anywhere. Like, what did that do by releasing it to Dumois? Did Dumois give you some sort of inside scoop? I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. You know, there's no trade system in there. It's just people leaving out information, going as a blind item and moving on. You could have done so many different things that you could have gone on a podcast. If you want credit for this and it was quote unquote juicy as fuck and you want to talk about it and you want to get your face out there, you go on like the Vile podcast. You go on someone else's podcast and start talking about it. You don't go and leak a blind item and then hide in the shadows. You're not going to get any credit for it. So it's not juicy enough for you to get credit for. Then why release it in the first place?
Well, she's afraid that Lindsay's going to find out that, or not Lindsay, she's afraid that everyone else is going to find out about it because she doesn't want the credit. She wants to cause a scene and stir up some shit, but she doesn't want to get involved with it. Like that was her moment of vengeance, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do those things, like we talk about all the time, fucking own it. If you did that and said, yeah, I fucking leaked it, you got to give respect.
If
like
you
there, it's
get
like,
caught.
okay.
Because it could have very easily been one of those things that we talk about, and it could have been any guest at Kyle's wedding that let that information out, and you could have skated through it. But once Lindsay gets blamed for it, and once it becomes a whole thing that the whole house is going to talk about and bring back up next year, you need to just step in and just own it at that point because it's floating around and it's getting really close to home. If you own it up front, it might be a little better for you. But sitting back and doing this now and saying, yeah, I leaked it because it's juicy and I want to create chaos is stupid. Nobody's going to like that.
No, and Paige, how she rolls with it at the end. And again, Paige's uproar at this whole thing, especially the saboteur of her photo shoot. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that warranted the backlash from her. Like, I don't know. It all seemed maybe she wanted something to tee it up for the Danielle thing, and that's what the Lindsay stuff was to like lead
Yeah.
into it. It seemed kind of forced in the beginning. Once we got to Danielle, that was all real. The Lindsay stuff still, until we get answers for that whole thing, I'm gonna have so many questions about it. And it's
Yeah.
such a non-issue also. It's so non-important, and I'm so stuck on it, and it's driving me nuts. So hopefully we get into that. But she ends it with, yeah, look, I'll be able to have fun next summer. Like, it's not the end of the world, but I see you both, and I have always seen you both. And love her or hate her, I do think that Paige is a pretty good read of people. Like, she tends
Mhm.
to get the gist of whoever's on the show fairly quickly and fairly well, at least in my opinion. Now, I might get skewered for that, but whatever. We move on and we
I
touch
love
on
that skewered is our new thing now, by the
skewered's
way.
the word now. Skewered and psyche are the ones we've been stuck on recently. I noticed psyche is coming up a lot as well.
Oh god.
Yeah, but we'll move on from those and we'll find new ones as we always do. And some people will point it out how it's annoying that we can't come up with new terms. Other people will laugh as we do. But hey, you can't win them all. But I can't believe that we have a segment in the reunion, the fucking reunion. Joey Loons gets a shout out. We're still talking about Balloon Guy Joe for whatever reason. I don't know why this guy's getting this much clout, but regardless, we talk about Joey Loons, and it's just more so the dynamic between Gabby and the rest of the house. And I felt for Gabby when this was happening during the season. I feel for her now, where everyone seems to take it upon themselves to guide her down the road of dating, where it's like,
Mhm.
look, just because I am selective and not trying to jump into bed with people and trying to find my way through it does not mean I'm incapable of flirting. Also, the whole let's pit each other against ourselves, like, oh, we'll both go for the same guy. Like, props to Gabby there for being like, fuck that. This doesn't sound fun. I'm not going to go
Yeah.
try to win the favor of a guy that you've been all over all night. That's weird. So I've been on her team with that. The only thing from Gabby I didn't love was her response in the last episode. Other than that, I thought she had a solid season. And this stuff specifically, I love that she's able to speak out on it now. And I know she had a tough reaction to it when it was going on. And understandably so. Like, her dad's pressuring her friends are now pressuring her everywhere she looks. People are telling her who to date, when to date, how to date. That's got to be fucking so irritating.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that she stands her ground, says, look, I'm good. All these dating coaches, shut the fuck up. I'm figuring it out. It's not that I can't sleep with anybody. I could if I wanted to. I don't. So leave me alone. And no, I'm not going toe to toe with Danielle over Balloon Guy Joe. Thank you, Gabby, for not doing that, because that speaks volumes to who you are. And I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, it just sucks that because I do think that Gabby could be good and she doesn't really step up a whole lot throughout the year. And look, I know what she's doing with the whole
She
Lindsay
was
and
more
Carl
comfortable
thing.
this year.
She was a little more comfortable this year, but she still doesn't really bring it on camera like I thought, somebody like Sam did. So I was really wondering why Gabby was even back this year.
Justice for Sam.
Justice for Sam. It just sucks a lot that Gabby's main storyline this year is about Balloon Guy Joe. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
That's a tough look.
Especially because
And
she
look,
didn't want to be involved with him.
no, she didn't. And maybe she did at one point. She did at least say that he was hot. But I love the fact that somebody or Andy calls out, Lindsay, why are you the one trying to put Balloon Guy Joe out there for Gabby and Danielle when you're the one who's talking about him the whole time? You were bringing up how hot he is and how good looking he is, or whatever you were saying about him. And you ended up pitting two of your friends against each other for this weird fucking balloon guy. So Gabby just wants to be out of this. She doesn't want anybody to talk about it anymore. And that really sucks because it has to be a main point during the reunion. Danielle's still sitting over there like, yeah, maybe I should have gone about it a little differently. Maybe I was a little hard on her. But Danielle does not feel bad about it at all. She still sits in there, and the whole fucking CEO and founder just confirms all of it. She loved that. that she was able to win Balloon Guy Joe over Gabby. She won that competition and she's happy about that and she's patting herself on the back about it. I hate that. That's just such a tough look for somebody who, again, I like Gabby. I think she's nice. I don't think she does enough for reality TV, but for that to be your main point, that's a tough look at the end of the season.
It is, especially for fucking Joey Loons. The fact that we're
Yeah.
still talking about this man is astounding.
It's insane.
But I know, but whatever. Let's get into it, dude. This is what everyone's been waiting for. We've been leading up to it. We've been leading you on a little bit. We've been teasing, if you will.
Are you sure you want to use that terminology right now?
Yeah, why?
Talking about who?
No, that's tough timing. Or you could say it's very poignant to what we're about to discuss because again, let me reiterate, am so glad that this was not leaked in the slightest. We were trying to figure it out. You and I, we interviewed West and we tried to get to the bottom of what has gone on. He didn't let anything slip. So we had no clue as to what to expect. We got a very generalized response. And the funniest thing, again, from our listeners and then our critics as well, was how are we going to respond to this simply because we had him on an episode? That doesn't mean that if you fuck up, we're not going to, damn it, skewer you. I couldn't think of another word. But look, let's dive into this whole thing. And it starts out a little light because they asked Jesse, why did you call it Ciara for not boinking West? And his whole thing was, look, we're all so close. They're so close. They're hanging out every night. He didn't want his boy to get played, which is ironic because that's not what happened at all. We find out the timeline a little bit. And as they go further and further into it, it gets uglier and uglier for West because it starts out that they hung out for 3 months after. She went to his parents' house. She went to her brother's wedding. She went to her brother's house or his brother's house. They dated. They were dating. And that's, I think, my first thing where I was like, dude, what the fuck? Because even in this moment, he's still trying to label it as though they were not dating. He's trying to play the semantics game, which I hate. I pointed this out before. This is why semantics are dangerous when it comes to dating, because all of you single people out there love to label, and you can't mislabel it or else it's too serious. This is what I'm talking about, because they were fucking dating. They were exclusive. He's still trying to use different words. You don't invite somebody that you're not serious about to those events. You don't invite them back to the family farm. That's bullshit. And that is 100% leading them on. And we move forward a little bit and we find out officially, which, by the way, you and I both knew immediately on that boat when he was talking to Amanda and she was like, are you texting other girls? He's like, yeah. And he's like, are you hooking up with them? He's like, no, dude. Yeah, you are.
I know.
Yes, you are.
It's such a tough, and I know that, the Bravo community is pretty split on it. But I do think the majority of us were rooting for him. We were rooting for him and Ciara. We were rooting for him. Everybody in the house was rooting for them. They were shipping them. They were doing everything under the sun to try to protect them, to protect Ciara, to protect West. He was the best. He had a fucking New York Times article about him being the new guy in the house, and he's stirring things up, and he's very lovable. Really tough timing for that New York Times article, by the way, that just dropped last week, right before the reunion.
You could say that's fantastic timing for the New York Times. They got way more reading.
People were going to read it. Yeah, a lot of hate reading on that one. But yeah, really tough timing. And again, look, we were really rooting for him. But it is really funny when you break it down. New guy comes into the house. I think I said it when, obviously I'm revisiting the past here, but when me and Ryan Bailey sat down to talk about the first episode of Summer House, I said I was a little unsure about West, but I just wasn't sure what to look for. I thought I liked Jesse, but he came off a little douchey. West came off a little bit as a fuckboy, and then I grew to love West, and I was rooting for him.
We all fell for it.
Turns out he's exactly who we thought he was.
Yeah, that's
rough.
I think, especially as, the resident, straight guys, I think that we looked the other way on some things that we probably could have dove further into. along the way. Like, and again, we say all the time, hindsight's a mofo. But looking back, and I think that we touched on some things, and we're both like, nah, he's cool. I think we missed some stuff. And I think if
No,
you
it
watch
was
this back, you could see, I
yeah.
don't think that he was ever trying to be rude about it. I just think that if you go through it again, understanding how it shook out in the end, you could see how he was setting it up to not be that serious. And we
Right.
talked a lot about they're avoiding the conversation. They're avoiding the conversation. Were they avoiding it? Or was he avoiding it?
I
Because I
think he
think that
was
Ciara
I
would have been open if he had said to her somewhere along the way, let's do this. I think she'd be like, all right, let's go. I think that
yeah.
she was waiting for him to take initiative and be like, hey, I'm ready to give this a full go because she is very hesitant to dive in. And I love everything that she said about, she was under scrutiny throughout the season for not sleeping with him. She ended up actually sleeping with him during those 3 months afterwards. The way that she breaks it down, in tears, by the way, makes so much sense. And it's such a beautiful sentiment where it's like a lot of people look past sex as it's not that big of a deal. For me, it is a big deal. And it's not like me to just do that. And I'm not going to do that for anybody. And the fact that she's saying that and then knowing that she actually did end up having sex with them and then it turned
Yeah.
out the way it did makes you feel even more for her because it's like, dude, you knew this is where West falls off completely. And the fact that he got put up on this massive pedestal for the entire season, he also came into a time in Bravo where all of the dudes are fucking up. And this was like the saving grace for the men of Bravo, where it's like finally a nice guy that we can root for. He's up on this high pedestal. It's such a fucking fall from grace because after hearing how she felt about everything and why she was moving the way she was moving, and then for him to go and sleep with her and then call everything off, it makes it so much fucking worse. And it paints the picture of, all right, this guy, when she said initially, West played the game for clout and for followers. The minute she said that, I was like, was that what it was behind it? I don't know. Until this dum dum opens up his mouth and fucking confirmed it. I was like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Like, why
Yeah.
the
No.
fuck are you like, you really did that because you wanted to get more followers and shit? Like, dude.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot that he said that was just problematic and completely incorrect and just dug himself deeper and deeper. But going back to just how the whole summer played out, like, yes, I do agree. I think that you and I, when we went through this, we did not look the other way, but we overlooked a couple of details
Yeah,
because it
that's a
looked
better way to
like the two of them really liked each other and they were on the same page without actually having the conversation for the most part. At least that's what it looked like to the bare eye. And we don't know, anything a little deeper than that. But for Ciara to sit there and go through all of this, and she had conversations with people in the house, she had conversations with West about how dumb she felt after the whole Austin thing and how ruthless people on the street were because they're fucking losers. And people were actually calling her out for the things that she did with Austin. So yeah, of course she's going to be guarded. And she was, and I know we gave them shit the whole summer for not fucking talking about exclusivity and actually talking about next steps and things like that before we wanted to get completely into what they were and what their relationship was. Ciara was very direct about everything else. And I
Yes.
do
Yeah.
agree with you. I do think that if West had sat down and said, look, I'm ready to commit. I like you a lot. Let's just do this for real. She would have done it. A
I
thousand
agree.
percent. She would have done that in August. She would have done it in September. And that's exactly how it would have happened. And you can chalk it up to whatever the hell you want. West doesn't have any girlfriends. He hasn't had a girlfriend since high school. He doesn't know how serious relationships work. That's just douchebag behavior. That's
That's
just fuckboy
bullshit. Yeah.
behavior. That's what every fuckboy in America is going to say is, I just haven't found, like Jesse says that. But Jesse's at least a little more open about it, where he says, I just haven't found the right girl. And if I find the right girl, I'll settle down. Jesse, this is what happens. You find the right girl and you're still finding more reasons to not settle down because you're on Bravo and you're going to have more fame or whatever. But Ciara was sitting there telling him the whole summer, I'm not going to sleep with you because I protect myself from things like that. I don't just sleep with everybody. I want to make sure that I have a real connection with somebody and that it's actually going somewhere before I do that. So the fact that we watched that whole summer and we're like, okay, well, they haven't slept together. So there's nothing to really worry about. It's just fun and happy. And even if they were to break up, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Once you do that, when the cameras stop and you start taking her to weddings and you meet the family and you do all this shit that you were talking about at the farm that day after horse riding, you're giving her so much false hope. And then you
Yes.
finally have sex with her, you finally sleep with her, and then you do exactly what she thought you were going to do in the beginning and what everybody else thought you were going to do in the beginning, that you were supposed to prove us wrong. You were supposed to be a different Bravo guy. Instead, all you wanted was to be the same Bravo guy that we've seen 1,000 fucking times. You want to be Austin. You want to be everybody else. You want to be Kyle, Carl, whoever, and just fuck around until you're 40 and then finally be like, oh, I guess I have to settle down now. If that's what you wanted the whole time, then don't shack up with Ciara immediately.
That's it.
Play around, do whatever. And look, maybe you were a little fearful that Jesse was going to swoop in and take Ciara and you weren't, making a decision yet. Tough shit, dude. You made a decision to try to build a relationship with her and then kicked her to the curb once you started getting DMs and shit. And everything that he said was fucking insane. And I don't feel bad for him when he starts talking about how I saw a bunch of pictures. I saw a bunch of pictures online and there was taglines in there that said Ciara and a newbie. And what am I going to be? Just like your puppet? Like,
I
dude,
couldn't believe it.
You
I
fucking
couldn't
moron.
fucking believe it.
You just had a New York Times article written about you, which, by the way, those photo shoots, there's like 50 fucking pictures of you in a different tan suit because that's what you're going to wear. There were a bunch of pictures and things written about you and interviews that took place. That thing was done before the reunion. They just released it now because they wanted to drum up as much support and time as possible right before the reunion. You knew that was coming out. So don't sit there and say I didn't want to be the nameless newbie over there. You're not. You're not anymore based off of the reaction that you got on social media. If that's what you wanted and you thought that was going to happen, which, by the way, any fucking single guy in their 20s who gets on Summer House is chomping at the bit to have a good season and then go to Bravo watch parties and hook up with chicks because that's what it is, dude. You fucking idiot. Don't go for a beautiful girl who you would never get outside of a Summer House setting and run through and just play games the entire time. It's fucking ridiculous.
No, and it's also coming on the heels of the most open that we've seen Ciara throughout this season. Like, we finally really get to know her. She was she shined this season. She was outstanding.
Yep.
And after that, everyone feels more connected to Ciara. And for him to use this defense, I don't even know if you can call it a defense, but my biggest issue with the whole entire thing is, like you said, she laid it out. This is what I'm afraid of. This is what I don't want to happen. Here's what I need. Here's what I want. My whole take on it now is he knew that. He knew exactly what she was afraid of and knew how to stay just far away enough to not force that conversation for as long as he possibly could, because he had no intention of being serious. And he can say now, like, oh, no, that wasn't the case. And it wasn't that I wasn't sincere. Probably in the moment, you probably were sincere. And the minute that you leave the Summer House and get back to the city and start DMing other chicks, it's a totally different story. So this whole thing was in fact a play where it's like, I can keep her at arm's length, try to have my cake and eat it too. And that's what we saw. And for him to then say, I got all these DMs, I'm going to these watch parties, and like, I don't know what the MO is when you go to the watch parties because there's girls all over you. I didn't want her to get the wrong vibe. It's like, don't play that card. Don't play that fucking card. And she stops him immediately. It is stupid. And she says, if you don't want to, you won't. If you do, you will. And it's just that simple. You can go to a fucking watch party and be fun and energetic and, talk to the girls that are there without the intention of having sex with them. That's very doable. That is actually extremely doable. That's called being a grown-up. And for him to then say that there was all these temptations, it's like, dude, that's the worst possible thing you could say, because there is 0% chance that you can do better than Ciara. 0%. So for you to say there's temptation elsewhere when you are dating a girl that is, one, clearly crazy about you. Like, I obviously there was some confusion during the season as to where everybody stood. Fine. If you want to play that game, fine. Clearly this girl was into you. Everyone in the house is telling you she's never, ever liked this with any other dudes ever. Not once other than Austin. Every single other guy, she doesn't give them the time of day, West. You're not that dumb. We talked to him. He's not a dumb guy. So, like, you can see what's happening. And for him to see it and then take the approach of, I'm going to keep playing this game that she's playing too, because she doesn't want to commit. It's not that she didn't want to commit. She's afraid and needs you to step up and be like, hey, I got you. I'm not going to fuck you over. Instead, you played the game long enough. And then we find out that after that horse riding thing, she gave him an out, which makes it even worse. She gave you an out. She said, hey, if you want to do all of the things that you just said were your temptations, by the way, if you want the girls DMing you, if you want to go to the watch party and hook up, if you want to be the man you're about to be, that's what happens on these shows. You're teed up, dude. You're about to do it. If that's the life you want to live, go do it. Go be that guy. No, we're good. I got you. That's fuckboy. That is the quintessential fuckboy right there. And the fact that he drops the fucking puppet line. You have the balls, sir, to sit across the room from Ciara, who is in tears. And those are not camera tears. Those were real tears. She's crying. And you're still concerned about how you were going to come off as being the newbie next to Ciara. As you pointed out, look at social media for the entire fucking season. Look at all Bravo accounts. You were the man. You literally were the guy. You were not the newbie next to Ciara. You were West and Ciara.
That's what I think is so funny too, that he's saying this months and months later. Okay, if you want to try to put us back into the perspective that you had back in December when you had this conversation with her, and you apparently wanted to just go to the next bar while Ciara went home and cried after you had this conversation. If you wanted to put us in the frame of mind that you were at, and you weren't sure what was going to happen when this show aired, you weren't sure how the Bravo community was going to perceive you, or if they're going to like you or dislike you or whatever, then fucking go back. Like to say that now is insane. Like you should have, like February, March, when the show started to pick up steam and people started to like you, you should have sat there and been like, fuck. Like if that's truly how you felt, you should sit there in February, March and say, fuck, I was so wrong. Everybody loves me. And you now know that everybody loves you because you're gallivanting around at all of these Bravo events, taking pictures with all of these girls, fully knowing that none of us know what's going on. And we're watching your relationship with Ciara blossom, supposedly. And you're still doing all of this. You have to have some inner perspective and be like, God damn, was I wrong or what? And the fact that you're going to bring it up now on the reunion after going on a 4-month tour of all these Bravo events and realizing how much people like you is insane. Just drop it. Don't even bring that up. Don't even say that. Or at least say it with the caveat of, I was super worried of how people were going to perceive me at the time. Now I realize that they loved me and I fucked everything up. You have to just fucking you're already digging yourself a hole unintentionally by trying to defend yourself, which is stupid.
Digging. Just lay there and take it.
Just lay there and take it. Just say, you know what? I'm a fucking idiot. Use the excuse about not being in a relationship if you want to do that, because everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, maybe that'll happen. Like, because there's idiots out there that do that. But fine, just fucking take your beating. You realize that you're fucked. You realize that as soon as Ciara walked in the door and she didn't look over at you, that you were fucked. Do not try to defend yourself. And look, Jesse stepping in is funny. Is really funny. It was
so dumb. I was like, dude, don't do this. I was like, don't Jesse, try to defend your boy right now.
I know, just don't. And I get it. I know what you want to do, but it's not going to work. It's just so funny. Like he's just dead in the water. Just leave him out there and let him fucking drown and figure it out.
Yeah, Jesse jumping in there and trying to paint it in a different light as to, he's trying to figure things out and this and that. It's like, yeah, okay. If you want to play that card, we can play that card real quick. He's trying to figure out what he wants. Fine. That happens before you go to the family ranch. That happens before you go to a wedding. That does not happen after the fact. You don't have a dinner in December where you quote unquote leave on the same page. I would love to know how that conversation went.
What was that like? It was a few weeks before the first episode too. Like, dude, the fucking timing.
Yeah, the timing sucks. Like, oh, you're about to be on TV and now you whack everything. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you're excited for what's about to come. And again, it's just this fall from grace could be studied, because I texted you. I watched this on Thursday. I know you watched the extended version afterwards, but I watched it live and I just texted you, dude, West is getting torched. And he is, and he still is today. And again, understandably so, because you took one of the most guarded, one of the most protective people that we've seen on these shows because of what happened with Austin. She was literally doing everything in her power to avoid another person like you. And all you did was confirm all of her worst fears when she and everyone else in the house laid it out for you on a silver fucking platter. Here's everything she's afraid of because of what happened a few summers ago. Don't do any of these things. Instead, he does all of those
All of
things.
them.
That's crazy behavior to the point that his dad, his father, goes, "Hey, you're going to fuck this up and you're going to look like a huge idiot on TV because of your commitment issues."
Yeah.
Dad was right. And that's where, like, I don't have sympathy. Like, I don't feel bad. And, there's people saying, oh, they weren't that serious. Like, it's still like a early
It
relationship.
got serious after the camera stopped rolling. That's what people don't fucking understand. And I hate that defense from people online right now trying to say that it wasn't that serious of a relationship. Yeah, for whatever reason, whatever we saw over the summer was light and funny, but you could tell based off of, and obviously hindsight is 2020, but you could tell based off of Ciara and the way that she was acting, as guarded as she was and as protective as she was still letting West in.
She
And
was.
he's a fucking moron because he's still going to sit there and say, oh, well, I've got anxiety about this. I don't know how it's going to work. You know what? If you're worried about people labeling you as the newbie in the pictures with Ciara, how about you just look at Ciara and say, holy shit, I would never get a girl as beautiful as this one is if I wasn't on TV. And guess what? Ciara is also a great person. And we saw a good friendship, a good relationship, a good rapport, whatever you want to label it as, where I know for a fact, as a third party watching all of this, if you were worried about that and you said something to Ciara, she would immediately say, any presser that I do, I will make sure that I put you first and I will talk about you. If that's what you're worried about, she would do that because that's how much she liked you. He was only worried about his own shit. And I know that I kind of teased it in the first episode, but you know where West is heading?
Where?
He's heading to Schwartzville. He's the new Tom Schwartz.
Oh, wow.
He's a big dumb idiot that's actually doing things and acting like he's a fucking idiot.
Interesting. I actually don't hate that. That's a solid call. Yeah,
That's where he's
because the
heading.
way
He's going to be
the way
38
he's
and
playing it,
single and living with Jesse.
and the way he's playing this whole thing is like this big question mark as to like, oh, like, I was sincere and like I didn't know this and that. It's like I hope he watched the season and sees what we saw, where it's like, was there moments where it's confusing as to where you two stand? Yeah, we commented on
Sure.
that. But at the same
What's your own
time,
doing?
yeah, exactly. That's the difference now. The hindsight now, he was intentionally allowing that to continue because he
Yeah.
knew she wasn't going to press the issue.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to press it either because I can come here on the weekends. Hopefully, we finally have sex. But in the meantime, I've got a whole roster back in New York because I'm on this show now. And I'm going to keep DMing these chicks. And then when the show picks up and starts airing, now I've got all these parties to go to. I'm the man. I get to go out here, have my pick, and go be a fuckboy. And that's exactly what played out. And that's exactly why he didn't force the conversation. Where we thought he was nervous to commit. No. By not having it, he didn't have to label it exclusive, and it still gave him free reign of the city. That's exactly what it was.
It gave him free reign of the city for the most part. But what happened is by not having that conversation, you're protecting yourself and not committing because you're afraid of commitment because you're fucking 13 years old. But what it also did was you continued to operate normally within a relationship with Ciara, and you got to a point where you guys had to be boyfriends and girlfriends. And I'm sure some of that felt nice, and I'm sure some of that was really nice to hear and have other people say, wow, your girlfriend is beautiful. But if that's not your intention and you're not fully intending on staying with her, that's when you should have woken up and been like, holy shit, this has gone too far. Instead, you continued and invited her to family things, introduced her to your parents, brought her to your brothers, all of the things that you did that show, hey, I'm committed to this relationship. You continued to do without actually being committed to the relationship. So yeah, that's more than fuckboy behavior. That's just fucked up.
It is fucked up. And Paige, again, lays it out there very well, very articulate. She said, look, nobody's faulting you. Like, we get the allure of fame. We get what comes with this show. We've seen newbies fall into this trap time and time again. We see mainstays fall into this trap time and time again.
Yep.
No one's faulting you for that part. What we're faulting you for, and us, the audience, is faulting you for, is while the allure of fame and the Bravo verse loving you on one hand, okay, what about over here? The allure of Ciara, this girl who is great, and we got to find out so much more about her this season, who is going to be ride or die. Like, that is who she is. Is it gonna? It's tough to get to that point with her, but once she's there, like, that's real. And instead of buying into that, you were more concerned about some ass you were going to get at a watch party and looking forward to that. And then it really, really painted a picture of what his idea of what this show was or what reality TV was as a whole. When they talk about the group chat, it's like two people's lives are falling apart. That's what we're discussing. Like, we're all having real-time reactions to this. Your response to us is, this is the best season of this show ever. He took this whole thing, and that's where you see the difference between him and Jesse. And it's interesting now that we've talked it out, and I didn't even notice this before, but the dichotomy of, in the beginning, Jesse saying this is so real versus the end of this episode where it's now, he was talking about how great this season was. Meanwhile, Lindsay and Carl are literally breaking up like 2 weeks prior to this. That shows you he came into this. This is a game. This is a big game to him. He went into this like it was The Bachelor. He's going to go try to hook up, have some fun, create a storyline. In the meantime, you trampled this poor woman who was so afraid to dive back into something. And you can claim that you didn't see it, that you didn't understand it. You'd have to be fucking blind to not get the vibe that she was putting out. When you're laying in bed, pillow talking, and you're like, that to me is even more intimate. If you're not having sex, you're doing that without the sex part. And I think we did comment on the fact earlier in the season where it's like, it's kind of weird that, you know, when you're here on the weekend, you are pretty much boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, the stuff that you guys do, how you talk, how you lay together, that is indicative of a relationship. But the minute that you're out of this house, it's a totally different story. Now we really know it was a different story. I just cannot for the life of me understand his approach coming into this and not being like, yeah, I fumbled the bag in the biggest way possible. This will go down in history as the biggest drop ball ever. This is crazy that he has any other response other than, I'm fucking dumb. I am so sorry for leading you on. I am so sorry that I gave you false hopes. I can't believe I took you to my parents' house without the intention of actually dating you. What an asshole I am. If there's anything I can do to get back in your good graces, let me know. But I probably can't because I'm a piece of shit and I'm sorry. That's all you need to say. You definitely don't say, I don't want to be Ciara's puppet, because you're still concerned about your own fucking image while she's sitting across from you sobbing about the fact that this relationship turned into what it was. That to me shows you where his intentions are, where they were, and who he is, that you can't, at least in the moment, be sympathetic to her crying. He didn't show any fucking emotion. He buried himself 10 times more than he needed to by his response to what was happening in real time. He didn't take into account at all anything she was saying. He was so concerned about how he can still look okay from this that he didn't sit there and at least accept what was going on and be like, wow, I fucked you up and I am so sorry for that. Instead, he wants to say, I didn't want to be her newbie puppet. Guess what, dude? You are the fucking newbie. She's been on this show for a while. People like her. You need to step up if you want to get to that level. This is not how you do it. And you definitely don't go on after knowing how badly it went and say, I didn't want to be her puppet. Just shut the fuck up. Just stop talking, dude. Stay in your hole and take this. It's crazy.
I think my favorite part of the end of it, where he texted the entire group saying this is the best or the best season of this show ever. We talked to West. He's never watched any Bravo before. So where are you getting that from, bud? You living on those? You living in the comments?
No, that's the DMs he got from those chicks saying this is the best season ever because you're on it. Winky
yeah, he's
face
just regurgitating it. Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, and this is a little, PSA to everybody out there that says that we will always side with people on our show. We've I almost said it again, skewered. We've been going after Fuda all season, and yeah, of course we're going to call out West for this ridiculous behavior. You can't defend it, especially when you see Ciara, who is nothing but forthcoming and sweet, crying on the other couch. Like, of course we're on her side. There's no other side to
Yep.
take here, and I'm curious how long this lashing is going to take, because this is a tough time for this to happen. There's not a lot of shows coming out right now.
No, I
This is
know.
going to linger. He's going to sit in this for a while, and
Uh-huh.
rightfully so. Like, I would imagine there is a down the line where he gets back in people's good graces, like way down the line. But I think we said it 2 weeks ago where West is about to meet the other side of Bravo. Like, he's been in the happy side of Bravo. He's never had to be on the mean side of Bravo, which is very, 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 very tough. We've been on that side before. It's not a good time. So watching this unfold over the next few months is going to be super interesting, especially now that they're getting ready to film in like 2 weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah. Interesting to see.
Well, let's dive into some preguntas, and guess who's back? Back
Question
again.
master.
Steely's back. Ask a friend. See what I did there?
I hear you.
Ask a friend instead of tell a friend.
Ask a
because
friend,
it's
tell a friend.
questions, baby. We're back with some questions, and let's jump right in. Up first from, I'll answer this one from Diana and Jerry. Do you think West used Ciara for clout? Because I do. He saw a way in, and we went for it. He said he did. So
Yeah.
that's not up for debate. He flat
There you
out
go.
said, yes, I was doing this because I wanted followers and shit, which is, again, what the fuck? Like, how is this your defense
I don't
coming
fucking
into
get it.
this? It's crazy.
Like, nobody helped you.
I know. Like, you didn't watch another reunion to understand what was about to happen to you. I don't know. But up next from It's Jordy. Do you think that Paige came at Danielle and Lindsay maliciously?
No, not at all. I think that she was going after them for things that she heard that they did, or in Danielle's case, knew that she did. And she was just getting it off her chest. Look, we've said this before. This is how Paige operates during reunions. Usually she doesn't do a whole lot, but just some bed gossip throughout the season. This season she showed up. So I have zero issue with her showing up at the reunion. And a lot of times we need her to show up at the reunion, but she's really come into her own and she's an absolute mainstay at these reunions. So no, I would say that she went a little soft on them for what she could have said.
Yeah, she did lighten up there when she could have dove in more, but she likes to like get her point across, and then like she's never one to keep hammering shit home, which is again why her word carries more weight in my opinion. A follow-up to that from Caroline Montez. Why wouldn't Paige drop it after Danielle admitted fault over Lindsay? Because she had every right to go back in because she found like that she was the one that was getting shit on there, her and Craig. So she's just defending herself.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. From Gianna Key 88. Did you think Andy was much tougher on Lindsay than Carl?
Yeah, but I don't know. We've seen Andy do this in the past. For whatever reason, he loves Austin, Craig, Kyle, Carl. He just always goes a little softer on them than what they need. He needs to really go after them. I don't know. Maybe we'll see that there's a bit of a different tune in the second half of this. I'm going to hold out some hope for that and just really see where he lands on things, because we talked a lot about how Carl was doing things towards the end of the season, how Lindsay kind of fell apart or not fell apart, but fell back a little bit and let things happen. So I don't really know. I think that he was just more confused about the way that Lindsay was answering versus how Carl was answering. Carl was, we know what he's doing, and he was at least concise with his answers. Lindsay was a bit all over the place. So I think he was just asking her more questions. I don't think he was actually being mean to her or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think he was a little tougher on her, but yeah, and this is kind of Carl's MO. He takes much more of like a publicist approach to shit like this.
Yeah.
He's very PC, and you can tell that he's practiced it and he knows what his responses are going to be. Whereas Lindsay is the opposite, which is ironic because she is a publicist.
Yep.
But she tends to answer with emotion. And on the flip side, Carl tends to be more concise intentionally, and not in a good way. That's just how they are. But
Yeah.
From Ronnie Boy 22. How do you feel about the fans turning against West in such a quick manner?
Well, I mean, I think we all kind of feel the same way because we were rooting for them so much. And we all feel like we've been
Bamboozled,
bamboozled for sure. I love
hoodwinked.
hoodwinked. There was just so much good going on, and we completely turned a blind eye. And look, we won't do it again. If we
No,
ever feel like we're being bamboozled and there's not enough information out there, we're not going to say, wow, they look so cute. Let's just focus on the here and now and how happy we are. We're going to start to ask some questions.
dude, going back now, thinking about that interview, knowing that this had all already happened, and we're like, you guys are so great. Are you going to get married?
That actually makes it kind of funny.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even think about that part of it. Oh, I hate ones like this. From Annie McDonald. Why are men the way that they are? Look, it's hard to defend right now. I
Yeah.
do get bummed out when men get blanket statements. But you kind of understand why men get blanket statemented if that's a verb. But Dev does it too. It'll happen when we're watching. She's like, "Well, men," and I'm like, "Damn it, guys! You really make us look really fucking bad." And like,
Yeah.
I pride myself on not being a piece of shit. Like, it's one of my favorite things about myself. So I'm not going to go on a soapbox here for men. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they do this. It fucks us up too because it
Yeah.
makes all of us look bad. It's not a good look for us. We get it.
Yeah.
And it's
We
not
don't like looking bad.
no. And yeah, it's a terrible look. I have no defense. I'm not going to sit here and defend it. It's just yeah, it's people, it's dudes like that that fuck it up for the rest of us and it sucks. But
Just know
that's
that
it.
we're upset about it too.
We're upset about it too, but we will not come to his defense or men's defense either. I don't know, to answer your question. Why are men the way they are? I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's do two more. I'm gonna read this one because I hate this fucking word. From Angie Banji. Why do mid men refuse to take accountability and try to quote unquote both sides everything? The word mid, it gets under
Why
my,
does
I don't
mid
know,
bother you?
because I think it's just not, I don't know, like the overuse of people saying, "Oh yeah, that's mid, bruh." Like, "Oh, that's so mid." It's like there's more
I love
creative words
mid.
than that.
I love
That's not
mid. Wait,
surprising.
well, of course I love mid, but you didn't smoke pot back in high school. Back in high school, there were mids
Yeah,
and they
mids
were
and
shit.
headies. I know. I
Mids and
know.
headies, yeah. And
I
now when
understand
people
that.
bring up mid, I'm like, now I get it. That's fine. It's fun.
Yeah. Shout out cheeks.
Cut out cheeks.
Yeah, I was down with the lingo. I just didn't smoke. But to answer your question, and Angie Banji, I'm not getting on you for using the word mid. I know everyone uses it. It's a personal pet peeve. Don't mind me. I'm an old soul, I suppose. But why mid men try to refuse accountability and take both sides is because men don't like being scrutinized and they don't want to be in the wrong. And if they can both sides it, then they don't have to cop to being the asshole in it. And I think we've said this before. Men don't do well with criticism. That one I will blanket statement. Like
Yeah.
we just don't. So by trying to both sides it, it's also taking the approach of I'm taking my part in it. Like you need to take your part too, where it's like that's
I'm
not
doing
always the
my
case.
part.
I'm doing my part. I didn't do fucking shit.
That's West.
Yeah, that's why. It's not a good thing. Again,
It's no, and it's especially true for fuckboys. They do that all
yes.
the time.
Yes. Yeah. And this is a good one to end it on. Well, I'll do two more because this one's a decent one too. From Jamie Gibbs, did West let the prospect of fame get to his head?
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%.
1,000,000,000% yes.
Yeah.
And the last one from
Yep. Gotta have one.
Macarin Kate. That should be Macarena Kate. Macarin Kate. I think it's a missed opportunity there. You might want to go back and if Macarena Kate is available, that
Yeah.
would be funny
Yeah.
because Macarin Kate, it's not bad. I'm just saying. Am I reading
It's
that
her
right?
last name, probably. Yeah, no,
Kate
you're reading it
Macarin.
right.
Oh, no, I just read her. My bad. Macarena Kate.
Oh,
Does Carl leave? Does Lindsay leave? How does the show go on? I have my own thought on this. What's yours?
no, neither leaves. Put them in a house
Neither
together
of them
next year.
leave.
Let's see what happens.
Neither of them
It's
leave.
fun.
One, it's going to be interesting. And as long as the dudes are getting along and the ladies are getting along separate, like if we can vibe with big groups, there's enough of both where they can vibe together, where maybe when they come together as a group, there's enough people there that it's still entertaining. I don't want to just see people fighting all summer.
Yeah.
But I think that the biggest answer is they have a $14,000 a month apartment that they got to pay for, and they need the paycheck.
It's a
I
good
think
point.
that's a big answer. Is they get paid a lot for the
Very
show,
practical.
and yeah, they have a very expensive lease on an apartment. So,
They certainly do.
but yeah, that to anyone out there curious as to what our take on West was, there you go.
There you have it. There you have
Yeah.
it.
Hopefully we didn't disappoint, because I think a lot of people were assuming we would take up for him, and there's nothing to take up for. It was one of the tougher performances we've seen on a reunion since we started this show. That
Yeah.
goes without saying.
Absolutely.
But don't forget, we are in Boston this Friday, and it is a sold-out show. So I'm telling the people that are going not to forget, because you have a ticket to it, and you don't want to, spend money and not show up. That would be silly.
That
So
would be
make
dumb.
sure you use that ticket and come to the show. We will be at the Phillies and Red Sox game on Thursday. If you want to play Spot That Bro, find us in the crowd. I will be wearing overalls with
I
their
will
short
be as well.
overalls.
Short
So
overalls.
we will both be in short overalls. So try to find us, take a picture with us. We would love to see you guys there if you're around. And the last thing is tomorrow night is our Brav Bros members Zoom, our community Zoom. It's our first one, 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't signed up for Brav Bros members yet, now's the time to do it. So click that link in our bio. It is $5 for the month, $50 for the year. It's also at the end of the show notes at the bottom of this episode. And the bigger news in that is we are 40 members away from our exclusive rom-com bromance episodes. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is at the top of that list, which I'm thrilled about. I love that movie. I've seen it probably 10 times plus. So going back in and rewatching it again is no problem for me. I will enjoy every second of it. Can't wait to talk about it. We need 40 more members to let those episodes happen. So go sign up now.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. Do it. You got anything else?
Nope.
Brav Bros are out of here. Shooter.